Hi, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, privatizing the lottery, gun control, and financial literacy, that's the subject matter on this week's Pennsylvania Newsmakers. Guess what? Pennsylvania politics and government in depth and in detail, and it all starts right now.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Well, we're going to get into some intriguing and obviously interesting subjects. Joining me, as often is the case, are two of the state's leading journalists. We have Robert Swift, I should say, journalist historian. Robert Swift, he's with Times-Shamrock newspapers. You can read his blog on the Political Express if you're into political history. And guess what? John Micek, I used to say he was with the Allentown Morning Call, but I don't know what he did. He's now the editorial page editor of, guess what, the Harrisburg Patriot-News and Penn Live. John, welcome. Congratulations on your promotion.
Appreciate it.
I don't know what they're going to have up on your chyron. They might have this Allentown Morning Call. If they do, we'll get it corrected somewhere along the line. All right, guys. Look, I want to start with you, Robert. Look, you've covered more of this gambling stuff since it began, right? You know what's going on. Privatizing the lottery has now become a pretty controversial subject. Go through the details of it. Lay it out for our viewers.
Well, the irony is that the Corbyn administration, signed their contract last week with the British firm they want to run the management of it, and send over to the Attorney General for review. And now you're starting to get legislative, blowback on this stuff. Most prominently from the Senate Republican leaders, who are warning about that any expansion of a privatized lottery into online gambling would go into what Senator Scarnati called casino land.
Right.
And here he brings this letter up.
You mean we have casinos in Pennsylvania? Yes. When did that happen?
And in fact, the casino law of 2004 requires that casinos have lottery ticket machines in their foyers.
I didn't know that.
A little fact just that's in there, and so you can buy a lottery ticket in a casino.
Wow. All right, John, let's go to another aspect of this. The reason give us the rationale the Corbyn administration has been using as to why they want to do this.
This is your fault, by the way.
My fault, okay.
No, people of your age cohort. Pennsylvania has a rapidly aging.
You're calling me old. Go ahead.
You're spry and youthful
that.
in every respect, but people aged 65 plus are making up the largest component of the state's population, and there's going to be more of them as more and more boomers head into retirement age. The administration says because of the demand for services at the State Department of Aging, some programs within the State Department of Transportation, shared rides, that kind of stuff, that the revenue growth in the lottery is not going to keep up with the demand for services. They think that these folks from Camelot Global, who run the national lottery in the United Kingdom, can wring more money out of the lottery than they're getting out of it now. And they're claiming that the sole rationale for doing this is to shore up programs for the aged.
So they're talking then literally about taking the current lottery operation and expanding it into maybe Keno operations in bars and restaurants. Is that right? Go ahead. Talk about the expansion.
Keno, which is a numbers game, into taverns and restaurants. Initially, they would ones that already sell lottery tickets. They would start there and then expand. Now, the Camelot, the firm that's has the contract signed, at least, they say we want to get more people playing, not necessarily spending more each person, but a bigger demographic audience.
They've said something like they could make $34 billion. Is that right? Over a 20-year period?
That's their contract, in the contract.
Is that what I got? That's what they're supposed to deliver. Yeah. Now, to go back to a point, John, that Robert made earlier, there are a couple of things that still have to happen. The Attorney General has to do a review, and then we have the state treasurer.
That's right.
Go ahead. Talk a little about that.
Okay, so Kathleen Kane, the new Democratic state attorney general, by law is required to review all contracts for form and legality and then kick them back to the administration after they're signed. So theoretically, she could say that there are problems with the contract. On the other hand, you have State Treasurer Rob McCord, who's the guy who signs the checks.
Well, you did the work, but I'm not sure I'm paying.
But he has actually said that if he thinks there are problems with the legality of the contract, he will refuse to pay Camelot. I don't know what statutory authority he has to do that necessarily, But one could see came out saying, well, we have a valid contract, we have a signed contract that requires us to be paid, and that ended up being just a hailstorm of litigation as well.
And then we have the union that represents the lottery employees. There are about 170, 80 employee lotteries. I guess there's about 70 actual members. What have they done?
They have their own bid, and then they had their own lawsuit challenging it. And it's interesting, what the Senate Republicans have done with their letter may be giving cover to an Attorney General Kaine or Treasurer McCord to challenge the contract.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like so many things, that this will end up in court.
All right. Well, we're going to shift gears. Dueling rallies last week in the Capitol. Pro-gun, anti-gun rights activists took the Capitol by storm. I'll be careful how I work that phraseology. We'll talk about gun control. And also there's big debate over the big Eastern Sports and Outdoor Show, this traditional show in which a lot of gun activists and advocates come into Harrisburg to look at their wares. We'll talk about that and more following these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania Business Council Education Foundation, educating citizens and business leaders about important public policy issues and civic affairs. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by BetterSaferRoads.com. To voice your support for safer highways and less traffic congestion, visit BetterSaferRoads.com. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Hi, welcome back to the program with journalists Robert Swift and John Micek. Actually, one now is an editorial page editor. I'm not sure I'm going to call him a journalist anymore because he got on my case a little earlier.
Uncool.
I know, it's so uncool. I'm only kidding.
All right.
You know that. All right. John, let me start with you. This week we had dueling, I don't know what, rallies. Is that the best way? In the Capitol, where in the morning we had the gun rights activists, and then I guess around noon or shortly thereafter we had the gun control activists. What were these rallies?
I mean, this is the national debate over gun control in the wake of the Newtown, Connecticut school shootings come to roost in Pennsylvania. I mean, we're now in the midst of a very furious debate. President Obama has proposed a ban on assault weapons, a ban on high-capacity magazines. Mm-hmm. Governor Cuomo in New York very swiftly passed some pretty radical gun control measures. Second Amendment advocates feel now, pardon the pun, as if they are under siege. As I think we were talking about in the break, there's, 80 million?
50 million, I think, gun owners and something like 200 million
weapons. I mean, we're talking about a very entrenched gun culture. And Arby can speak more about this since he was actually there, but yesterday in the Capitol you had forces on both sides holding rallies. Ceasefire PA, the handgun control lobbying group, calling on lawmakers to pass gun control measures. The Second Amendment folks on the other side obviously resisting that. I mean, this is a very intense, very passionate debate.
Now, I was going to say, I saw some clips from the gun control advocates. That was a pretty emotional scene in there, wasn't it?
They were both, in fact, with the gun control one, the ceasefire one, you had people from the Second Amendment rally filtering in there with signs, and they were, they were not heckling, but calling out some of the speakers. So, which was, given the emotion of the thing, you had, parents holding up photos of children slain by gunfire.
But the testimony, that's not quite the wrong. That's the wrong word. But the comment got pretty emotional inside there, didn't they?
They were singing, and what struck me was that if you looked at what both groups have gun legislation they want, they're so diametrically opposed. The ceasefire group, had paralleled some of the president's stuff for background checks, assault weapon bans, and then the Second Amendment people have a bill by Representative Metcalf to nullify essentially any federal stuff, and they're so far apart.
All right, before we get out of this segment, look, there's a huge exhibit. It takes place, I think, yearly at the Farm and Home Show in Harrisburg. Is that right?
That's
right.
That
right? Farm and Home Center. several hundred people have done what?
Well, this is the annual Eastern Sports Outdoors Exposition at the Pennsylvania Farm Show. The UK-based, and we're back to this again, the UK-based company that runs this show has announced that it will ban assault weapons and what they're calling sort of modern sporting rifles from the event. That's actually caused 200 exhibitors, some of them local, some of them giant retail outlets like Cabela's, where a lot of people buy, hunting supplies and that kind of stuff, to withdraw in protest from the event. It's just been this extraordinary sort of outpouring. I mean, one would suspect that, at least from Cabela's point of view, this makes financial sense as well. Yeah. The company derives a large share of its income from the sales of hunting rifles and ammunition and that kind of stuff.
And I guess some people are boycotting it because they don't like the fact that assault rifles aren't going to be sold there or exhibited there. And then there's some people who just want to avoid the controversy. I think there was an Olympic
that's right.
Yeah, shooter, a gal who won. I think she won a medal. She was a medalist, a gold medalist, I think, who just said, "I'm done. I'm not going there. It's I'm not
just trying to stay out of it." But I mean, for a lot of these exhibitors, this was sort of a fiduciary decision mixed with sort of ideology as well.
All right. Now, look, before we go out of this segment, I want to go through a couple things. Pennsylvania legislature, where you've got both Democrats and Republicans, particularly from rural areas, who are not prone for gun control. A lot of urban Democrats, especially in some suburban Philadelphia, Republican lawmakers for gun control. Here we go. Yes or no? Will the legislature ban assault rifles?
No.
No.
Will they limit magazine clips to no more than 10 bullets?
No.
No.
We're not getting anywhere here. End the gun show loophole?
Possibly. I mean, the governor did sign into law at the end of the last legislative session a bill that cracked down on repeat violators of the so-called straw purchasing laws.
Okay.
So possibly.
Maybe. How about end the sale of guns on the internet where many guns are purchased without background checks?
No.
Nope. All right. The final one, is there anything that they can do in this state to sort of redefine mental illness? Or is that you think that has to take place at the federal level? Robert,
I'm not sure.
I'm
not sure they're going to. Yeah, not a redefinition. You had some people talking about. Obviously this is a budget issue, and there's been cuts in that, especially at the county level.
Okay.
So no. Probably.
All right. I want to bring these guys back just for a brief time. We're going to talk a little bit about the governor's proposed budget on February 5. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the State System of Higher Education. 14 state-owned universities. The state system is the largest provider of higher education in Pennsylvania. And by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania.
Hi, welcome back. We're going to do this very quickly. And RB, I'll start with you. What are we looking for in Governor Corbett's budget, February 5?
Well, now it looks like this day is going to have a lot of stuff riding along with it. We're going to have the budget. We're going to have the governor talking about pension thing, pension change, which I think he's going to tie to restoring money for social service and education programs, linking the two. And we're going to have him now. He's saying he's also going to do the transportation funding program proposal on that same day.
So, John Micek, this is a huge agenda, and typically they're not very specific in these. I mean, that's the whole debate. Are we going to get a lot of specifics?
It's looking like it's going to be a very busy day. The governor was in Philadelphia last Wednesday talking to the editorial board of the Philadelphia Inquirer, where in fact he explicitly tied education funding to givebacks on pensions. He's saying he's not planning to slash basic ed funding or funding for the state-supported universities, but he's hinted that position could change if he doesn't get back some of what he's looking for in pensions. So he's already sort of putting his cards down on the table. We're looking for a fairly meaty proposal on transportation funding, where it looks like
pension
and pension reforms as well. So it's going to be a big.
But bottom line,
day.
before I let you go, I think he's also hinted that there's not likely to be cuts in this budget. I think the blowback from the cuts over the past 2 years have, dropped his job performance. Did you guys agree?
That's right. Every signal is that they're going to try to.
All right, great update.
That.
All right, financial literacy update. You want to stay around for this because it's about this. It's about your money. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Oh, this is one financial literacy update you're not going to want to miss. Joining me is Mike Wishnow. He's a senior VP with the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association, and Greg Smith. He's the CEO of PSECU. It's a huge state, a lot of state employees, right? In that,
a lot of state employees, but a lot of other
folks as well.
Right.
All right, look, we're going to get into something here. We've talked about the relationship between credit scores and borrowing. Does it matter if you want to go buy a car, if you want to take a mortgage out in a house? Take a look at this chart. I'm going to have Greg talk about this. Look at the credit. Greg, get into this.
Well, what this chart shows, this is from a survey that we get at PSECU on a monthly basis. It shows other auto lenders, and these are car loans. But what the dealer is going to do here is price your loan based upon your credit score. And you can see these A+, A and B, things like that.
Interest rates. There are interest rates that you pay, right? Go ahead.
The ranges there, the 800 to 740 is your FICO score. So depending upon the term of your loan, this first row is a 60-month loan. So your price at that loan would be 2.64%. But if you're unfortunate enough to have a credit score, say over in the D or E range, say at 639 or 620, you're going to be paying nearly twice that rate at about 5.5%.
Yeah, I mean, look, over the course of time, we've talked about that a good bit on here. Mike, you have come on here and preached about this. Talk about credit scores again. Let's go through this.
Well, credit scores are an indicator of creditworthiness for an individual. And basically, if you make your payments on time, if you manage your credit well, if you don't have too much credit, you don't have too much debt, you're going to have a higher score. If you miss some payments and you're a little bit late here or there, your score is going to go down. Of course, if you have a vehicle repossessed or start the foreclosure process or have judgments against you, it's going to be all the way toward the far end.
Now, there are a couple of there are three that often get mentioned, sort of scorekeepers, if you will, people that, go ahead.
The three different bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. They're the major bureaus that exist in the U.S. And each of them calculates your credit score just slightly different. But in general, they're going to be very, very similar.
So go ahead.
But a credit score is a tool that a lender uses to predict your repayment probability.
You know, look, we've talked about this a lot on this program over the years, but this is the first time we sort of graphically, Mike, see what a difference it makes. I mean, we're not just talking about $10 or $15 a month here. We could be talking about hundreds of dollars, if not thousands, over the course of a loan.
Oh,
yes,
absolutely,
no?
absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Well, look, let's switch gears a little bit. I want to, Mike, I'll start with you. Here we are. We're into 2013. People be borrowing money. It looks like, we could see a slight expansion of the economy. Lending trends 2013. Give us the top two or three.
Well, certainly interest rates are going to remain at all-time lows. The Federal Reserve Bank has signaled that for short-term rates. They've basically said till mid-15, they're going to target short-term rates between 0 and 0.25%. That's what they lend to financial institutions. That'll keep rates down. Also, long-term rates, they're buying back a lot of mortgage securities, and they're infusing money into the system, that will keep long-term rates low for the foreseeable future.
So basically, if folks were to come to your organization or to a credit institution of some kind and say, we're going to buy something, what are the 3 or 4 things they should be looking for?
Well, they'll want to look at the rates, terms of a loan. But you want to borrow prudently. You don't want to borrow.
Get yourself
needlessly.
underwater.
Exactly. Yeah. And we make it a point not to let our members get into that situation.
Do you? Does it look like, from your point of view, as someone who lends a lot of money, that we're seeing an expansion now, or is it breaking open? I notice we get some sort of mixed reports on housing on some of the shows, the financial shows on the cable. We had some expansion, then somebody said, well, it may be a little flat now. What do you see as the trends in our state?
Our real estate volumes are really picking up. What we're seeing is a lot of refinance activity, though, Terry. It's mainly members that are rolling their rates down. This is a phenomenal time. Members really should take advantage of these low rates. I can't imagine they're going to be around forever.
Yeah. So long term, are you optimistic that this year is going to be better than last year? I mean, what's your general overall sense about the economy?
I think most people are saying we are in recovery now, although it doesn't feel it. And I think that rates are going to stay low. I think that unfortunately unemployment rates are going to be slow to drop. But those two combinations of things are going to continue slow expansion. And you saw it with car loans as well. You saw it with car volumes as well as housing volumes toward the last quarter of 12.
Before I let you go, I want to go back to the credit score a minute and end on this. I got a bad credit score. What do I do about it?
Well, you need to monitor that credit score. There are ways that you can improve that credit score. Certainly, as Mike was saying before, make your payments on time. That's one of the simplest things that you can do. Make sure that one thing that you don't want to do is just pay all of your accounts down. You need, one of the big factors that people miss in their credit score is open lines of credit. You want to reserve some open lines of credit. A factor in your credit score is how much available credit you have that's unused. That actually gives you more points in your score.
Meaning you get higher points for the more credit that you have available. So that's a good thing.
That's unused, exactly.
Right. So
exactly.
If you have a Visa card that has a $2,000 balance and you're carrying $300, that's going to be favorable as opposed to if you're carrying $1,800.
All right.
Exactly.
One last question. What's the credit score? And this is maybe a crazy question. We got about 30 seconds. Where don't you want to fall below?
Below 700, say.
You agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 700 plus, you're going to get the preferable rates.
All right. Look, this was a wonderful update. I love the table because first time we could see graphically, Mike, you and I have been talking about this for a couple years. All right. We'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And as always, stay well.